Blade singing is often seen as a sacred art, and those who excelled in it are few and far between. The art of combining the destructive magic of a mage and the elegant swordplay of a virtuoso to ultimately climax in a crescendo of killing your enemies while saving your allies at the same time requires next level coordination. Call it an art. Hence why many aspiring Bladesingers do not make the cut. They're just not good enough, and mentors have seen students come and go in droves. As a Bladesinger, you will be seen as the hero by our people, and you'll have to fulfill your duty of being the sworn protector. Do you have what it takes though, knowing the journey will be ridden with obstacles and challenges? Surviving the darkness of the world is not easy, no matter how good you are, especially when others rely on you. And it's only natural that you'll get or feel lost at times, not knowing how to move on. And when it rains hard. But if you can keep in mind why you do all of this, then nothing can break your mental resolve. The journey is ultimately all that matters, as it's the catalyst for making the best memories, and that's the other side of the coin. So, if you decide to commit to the cause, then the payoff will be big. Here's a little sneak peek. We're going to do things like this as a Bladesinger. One-tap enemies, completely destroy them and do disgusting damage. Have insane AC, so a lot of enemies won't even be able to touch us. Be all over the battlefield, killing targets left and right because we have insane mobility. We have disgusting crowd control, even more insane AoE damage, insane single target spell damage, crits. Yes, we have it all. And it's too much to really summarize in just one sentence or so. So let's just get over all the intricacies of the Bladesinger right now and my build for it. Today's build was made on honor mode, so logically it will work with any difficulty you choose. Nice, right? The best race for the Bladesinger here is probably going to be either a wood half-elf or a wood elf, as the extra movement is just really nice for the Bladesinger's mobile playstyle, with Fey Ancestry being a nice bonus. Half-orc is a really strong option too, however, since we will have the possibility to crit quite consistently, and Relentless Endurance is great for the sustain. Same line of thinking makes Dwargar also a pretty nice option with its enlarge giving us more damage too. Githyanki deserves a shout too, especially if you're making the Bladesinger your face, due to Astral Knowledge giving you, proficiency in any skill you desire. So it covers the charisma related ones very nicely, and it grants you some nice utility spells for free as well. But race doesn't really matter too much, so feel free to pick whatever you like. Cantrips, first of all, we get Booming Blade. It's going to be a really nice option, giving us extra damage every time our enemy moves. And after level 5, it just becomes guaranteed extra thunder damage every time we use our melee attack, in addition to the extra damage that we get when our enemies move. So it's hard to not pick it right here. It is essentially just a replacement for your normal melee attack, with no real downsides for doing so. I like to pick Ray of Frost here as well, just for the kiting purposes, and Shocking Grasp to deny reactions, with both cantrips also just being able to dish out nice damage for something that doesn't consume a spell slot, especially due to the potential to get double the damage due to the synergy with wet targets. Other cantrips worth considering here are Friends for charisma checks, Minor Illusion and Mage Hand for a lot of different cool tricks like grouping up enemies for a nice blast, or throwing things in battle so you don't have to waste your own actions. If I had more slots, yeah, I would have picked it, but we do not live in a world with endless options, right? So we have to make choices. For spells here, the must-haves are going to be, in my opinion, of course, Shield, Magic Missiles, Long Strider, and Mage Armor. Mage Armor is going to give us 3 AC for free right off the bat, helps incredibly well with not getting destroyed, and we can't wear medium plus armor or shields when blade singing, upping the value of Mage Armor even more when going for clothing setups. Shield is an additional shield on top of that. That can be the difference between an honor mode run gone wrong and an honor mode easy peasy victory. It's 21 AC right off the bat if it procs on top of Mage Armor, so yeah, that is pretty substantial, and it's a lot of value from denying your enemy's attacks on a level 1 spell slot reaction. Magic Missiles is guaranteed splittable damage, so it has insane value early on when you miss so often that you look like a complete fool and you're perplexed at if something's like very wrong with your character or not. You also get more missiles if you upcast it, meaning it stays relevant pretty much through your entire adventure when you just need to ensure damage. Long Strider is more movement for the entire day for you and your entire party. It's incredibly good, especially on honor mode where movement is vital. If you don't have a source for it in your party, take it here. Some people don't know it, but since it's a ritual, you can just cast it 4 times at level 1 and cover the entire party like that. Then later on, when you unlock level 4 spell slots, you can just cast it once to cover everyone. Outside of that, Chromatic Orb for some AoE-ish type of utility, while also having good damage potential. For example, the Thunder one can hit up to 24 on a level 1 spell slot. That is pretty impressive. And the Expeditious Retreat, because we don't have anything useful for a concentration slot yet, and with it we get that dash on our bonus action, so even more movement options. For your abilities, our most important stats here are going to be dexterity and intelligence. Dexterity because its skills are melee attacks, and intelligence because its skills are spells. Dexterity is overall a tad more important as it's also related to our armor class and our initiative. Meaning we go 17 dexterity here and grab Auntie Ethel's hair at around level 4 or 5 if you want to be safe on armor mode to get it to 18, 16 intelligence, and then 14 constitution for the HP and maintaining concentration spells. Then we also get 10 wisdom for the wisdom saving throws, which are quite prevalent, and spells related to wisdom saving throws can be quite annoying. You can dump charisma and strength safely. Now you might ask, is the Bladesinger still going to be a good party face if we dump charisma like this, pretending like this skill doesn't matter at all? And the answer is absolutely yes. Aside from Bladesinging having the imposing RP properties of being a leader or someone that is seen as a hero, we have 16 intelligence, remember? Intelligence is used to detect thoughts in conversation options, and since we have 16 intelligence, we get a juicy bonus there. Detect thoughts can be a great tool to persuade whoever you're talking with through the power of magic and bypass conversations without having to fight if you want to go that route. Then you can still opt for a background with either persuasion, intimidation, or a deception proficiency, and still also be covered for those charisma related checks to a degree. And in addition, we also still have things like guidance and a lot of other stuff that will help us through dialogues. But even if you fail dialogues, it's actually good because in my opinion it also leads to more interesting outcomes and less predictability. But don't even worry about it, you won't be socially awkward in dialogues, you know. You are a wizard, so you'll manage. Now after leaving the Nautiloid, whether you defeat Zalk or not, you will be level 2 quickly. And here you can already pick your subclass, and we get the Bladesinger obviously, and 2 more spells as well. And I'm going to make a case here to grab Thunderwave for the pushback factor to insect kill enemies, and to have an option for those annoying eyes in the Grimforge later on, which are bad against thunder. And then Find Familiar because it is a ritual spell and can give you quite a good companion. I didn't really use this one, but yeah, it's still pretty useful from an opportunity cost perspective. You have various options for a level 1 spell slot, so yeah, why not? At level 2 you get the option to make a baseline weapon option. Now you get the proficiency with all of these weapons, so the choice here is mostly for in the moment, and it's just to get a standard weapon right away. Best option here is then going to be a rapier, since the baseline rapier of the game is a 1d8 rapier that scales with dexterity, while the rest of the options here are going to either scale with your strength or use a dice with a lower cap, as illustrated on screen. Hence why I picked the rapier here to min-max this a bit and make you have a great start. You also unlock your actual core Bladesinging ability right here as well, and you kind of want to use this thing as much as possible, especially at these levels as well. Reason being, aside from the actual ability, is that you get +2 AC, so that's already a whopping 18 AC at level 2 when counting for mage armor, with shield raising that to 23 AC, 3M the superior movement metric or 10 feet, extra movement, and then +2 to con saving throws, meaning you will be able to preserve your concentration spells even better. For now you can use Expeditious Retreat to have a pretty useful concentration spell going. So you get a bunch of things just by pressing this button that is not tied to an action or anything like that, so you can always use it if you have the charges for it. Now the actual action, or rather bonus action, the Bladesinging climax of your Bladesinging right here, is a very fundamental component to how you play the class. The more you attack with your weapon, as in melee attacks, you build up your healing charges, while using spells resorts into you building up your damage charges. Since this skill is new, I'll just quickly visualize what it does. You press the button and everything in the circle that is your ally gets healed, while everything that is your enemy gets damaged. So you could spam spells and then get a big AoE nuke at the end of your Bladesinging, or you could slash away with your weapon and get a huge party-based heal that can completely swing a battle you're losing to one that you're now winning easily. Yes, this thing is good. So you can see how this ability sets up for a great momentum swing, and you generally want to stall using it to make sure you build up as much charges as possible. Sometimes you will have won the battle before even getting to use it as well, by the way, and in those cases you can make it function as what is essentially an additional short rest that can heal you a lot. It is nice to sustain more battles like that before having to long rest. Aside from that, it's also a mobility tool that can prevent fall damage or getting prone for a nice entry to a fight when you have the high ground, especially if you cast some spells beforehand to get some damage charges going. So as you see, the Bladesinger's core skill here has a lot of value to it, from passive buffs to all kinds of battle utility and damage. Aside from that, your strategy for level 2 and in these early levels is just going to be to booming blade everything with your rapier here, shoot magic missiles for guaranteed damage, and chromatic orb for higher damage potential or to create useful surfaces, kite with ray of frost for mobs in the distance, and use shocking grabs to safely disengage to facilitate your playstyle of being a warrior and a mage at the same time. Make sure to keep casting mage armor and long strider after every rest as well. It is tedious, but it has to be done, and use shield when things get spicy. You'll get level 3 quickly, and keep everything I just said in mind, but now things get even better because we can grab Shadowblade here, which scales properly with our dexterity. So switch out the rapier, and going forward, Shadowblade is going to be our main hand weapon, as it will deal more damage than anything else you can get at level 3 pretty much. In addition, we also grab Cloud of Daggers, which is great for the AoE damage, and we now have an actual great spell to use our concentration on. Cloud of Daggers makes you remember why being a mage-esque type of character is just really nice. Put it on choke points, and it's pretty much a guaranteed win. If they pass the Cloud Daggers, you can then nuke them with your melee spells after being, you know, stabbed all over the place with these daggers, while if they're behind or in the daggers, you can nuke them with your ranged spells. So it synergizes perfectly with what we're going for here. To complement our Shadowblade here, we're also going to utilize our offhand with a very nice option. So we have two good options here for our offhand. The speedy reply is the first one, and it's right up for the takings on the Risen Road. You can go here level 2, level 3. It is laying on a dead body, and it's actually great for giving you momentum. You hit something with your bonus action, and you get even more movement as a result. Great for maneuvering through the battlefield. Alternatively, you can go to the Goblin camp very early on as well. You don't really have to fight much to get there or anything at all, and you can visit Roa Moonglow quickly inside. He will sell you the Hunter's Dagger for relatively cheap, and it's a great offhand too. That applies Rupture for 3 turns. Rupture essentially mimics the Booming Blade's effect in that your target gets damage if it moves. So great synergy there to play with targets moving around, and you can combine it, for example, with your Expeditious Retreat, and it's 1d4 damage per meter of movement. With it then being 3 turns and it going -1 per trigger means that's 3d4 damage for essentially free and just using your bonus action. It is really good. So go ahead and pick up both the Speedy Reply and the Hunter's Dagger and see what you like the idea more of. Before you leave Roa though, grab his Bow of Awareness as well. We're going to use it for our bow slot. It fills our bow slot and gives us initiative, which is very good now, in addition to our already high investment in dexterity, meaning going forward we will always be first pretty much in the combat cycle. And that's obviously very nice because the faster we can inflict carnage, the better. Initially I was going to recommend the Scissor Dagger because I like the idea of having silence on a bonus action, but then after playing around with it a bit, I found something weird. It doesn't actually work with Booming Blade because it denies your damage output when moving. I guess it makes sense in hindsight since thunder is essentially a bunch of vibrations, which is sound, and silence means no sound, but for some reason I thought silence would apply to the enemy's abilities rather than my own. So unfortunately I played with this thing for no good reason, but hey, here's some maybe potentially useful information for you as well. We can draw good lessons from this. Aside from the weapons, you want to go to the Blighted Village and grab the Bracers of Defense ASAP. Make it a huge priority as these bracers are excellent with this build. It's +2 AC, which stacks with Mage's armor since we are never wearing armor, and that then results into something insane at level 4 only. At level 4 we also get our first ability improvement, put both points in dexterity to get it to 19, and around this point or level it is good to get the level up from Auntie Ethel to get your dexterity to 20. So grab the Hag's Hair and do that. Dexterity scaling here and getting it to 20 early on means also we will have better armor, better accuracy, will hit harder, and more initiative. So it's a lot of benefits from getting dexterity to 20 ASAP. Yeah, dexterity is pretty OP now that I think about it. For cantrips, I'm taking Friends here now. The times it will provide to be useful in dialogues and checks can really not be underestimated. For spells, we also grab Hold Person and Mirror Image. Both are absolutely excellent spells for this build. Hold Person gives us now the ability to just get guaranteed crits, and with Mirror Image, we have the option to get to 30 AC at level 4, or 31 if you go ahead and grab Auntie Ethel's hair right now. So there's even potential to get to 36 AC with shield in our back pocket, because as you might remember, that gives us 5 extra AC as well, and that's of course only if anything manages to bypass that 31 AC in the first place, which I don't recall ever happening at this point in the game. But you know, enemies can get lucky sometimes, and if you have karmic dice, anything can happen really. But essentially it is 31 to 36 AC early on, and yeah, this is the definition of overpowered early. Here you go. enjoy. But we're just only getting started. So while you recover from obtaining that mind-boggling information, make sure to press the like button right now. Subscribe if you haven't still done so yet for some mysterious reason. And if you like my content and you want to go the next level, you can also check out my Patreon to support the channel, or check out the written guides and character cheats that are on my Patreon that I have there for all my builds, including this one, if you prefer to read the build once again in all tranquility, or just to have a summary. Now, level 5 is another huge power spike. Give me haste and fireball, baby. You don't have to prepare both right away, but I would recommend to prepare haste at the very least. Aside from now being able to have double actions with it, it is another 2 AC, meaning we are now at 33 AC with everything mentioned so far, up to 38 AC when considering shield. Yes, let that sink in. 38 AC at level 5. Nonetheless, it's incredible. At level 5, you also get another Bladesong charge, which essentially just means even more sustain and longer days. As you can see, Bladesinging just as another tool to win an entire fight, even if you ran out of spell slots. I went over all the useful aspects of Bladesong just a second ago, but keep in mind that the higher level you are, the more potential you have in getting a bunch of charges, as you're going to generate them very quickly, exactly due to spells like haste, but also because we get more and more spell slots. So in that sense, it scales very nicely. Fireball is then also a great AoE spell and really needs no introduction, so we learned that here as well. It is excellent for when we need raw AoE destructive power, and it's a lot of fun mixing it with our melee attack playstyle to, you know, just lob this ball of pure fiery power in there to annihilate things when we don't feel like using our weapons, or if the situation just simply demands it from us. At level 5, if you haven't cleared the goblin camp yet or engaged with it in any capacity, do so ASAP and get the Crusher's Ring for even more movement, and the movement here is going to give us a lot of options for our hybrid playstyle. And talk to the weirdo there, yes, do the SM things to get his buff, which is pretty nice with a build like this that can heal yourself very nicely. It's also the time to enter the Underdark. In the Underdark, kill the Bullet ASAP, which roams around everywhere, to grab the Blood Guzzler's Garb. The Blood Guzzler's Garb is an excellent piece that works well with our AC and frontliner-esque properties. It stacks up breath very quickly, like you can see in this example. 5 extra attack by doing pretty much nothing, and that is quite substantial at these levels. And you can trigger it very easily with, say, DOT effects like bleeding, as you see here, or anything that damages you essentially, even if it's something very minor. So it doesn't even have to be any significant damage to get very significant benefits from this thing. Aside from that, in the Underdark, go ahead and buy the Caustic Band from the trader up in the north for 2 more acid damage per attack. It's a free unconditional damage boost, so a lot of value in this ring too, and we grab it. Adding to that, we also get our extra attack at level 6 as a Bladesinger, and this is the only way to get an extra attack as a wizard actually, so it is incredible. And so that means with haste on Armor mode, you now have 3 melee attacks, or 2 melee attacks and a spell, or 2 spells for actions, with our offhand attack that I just went over for our bonus action. So that's a potential of 4 sources of damage, CC, whatever, every turn. It's an insane power spike. At level 6, you can learn more level 3 spells as well, and level 3 spells are generally one of the best brackets of spells, and it's really hard to not get counterspell right here. The momentum swing value of this spell is just really insane. Denying a spell could literally be the difference between a won battle and a lost battle, so I definitely always get it personally. Other great spells here are Glyph of Warding for great elemental AoE options, and stuff like Detonation that can just insta-kill enemies, Sleet Storm for concentration and mage countering, and Lightning Bolt for the same reason we took Fireball, but now in a lightning version. Around these levels, you also want to start clearing the mountain pass, and we get a lot of good stuff here actually. We grab the Periapt of Wound Closure for our amulet, and you can buy this amulet from Esther, and it will make our heals maximum heal ourselves. So when we Bladesong climax, we get the highest possible roll on the die that's related to healing for ourselves, and that means it's incredibly easy to just heal up to full HP like that. It is amazing sustain. But it works when throwing or consuming potions too, you get the maximum value there as well, so it is honestly a great amulet for a Bladesinger, hence why I took it for my build. For your headpiece then, you can initially use Wapiera's Crown for the synergy with Bladesong Climax, and you can get this one quite early on in the Druid's Grove after saving the Tieflings, and 1d6 healing is quite nice early on, but ultimately after say level 5 or 6, when you go to the mountain pass and clear it, definitely replace it for the Diadem of Arcane Synergy. This is easily the best helmet you can get in Act 1 for your Bladesinger, given that we got 16 intelligence and have a reliance on both intelligence and dexterity, so our dexterity based melee melee attacks now also profit from our intelligence here due to arcane synergy. At 16 intelligence, that's a +3 modifier for damage here, and apply that to every single attack. Yeah, it's great value that makes a lot of sense in a spell blade type of build like this that uses multiple abilities. For level 7 and 8 then, you unlock level 4 spells, and it doesn't matter too much which ones you learn here, but I found Ice Storm to be an absolute amazing addition to our kit. This spell has an excellent range, can do disgusting damage with the wet synergy and targets with cold vulnerability, and due to that can also just one-shot entire hordes of enemies, and in some situations it will also definitely be better than Fireball because it has that ingrained ICC, giving enemies the potential to fall over, giving you more momentum with that. Dimension Door also has some uses here, being like a type of double Misty Step. Fire Shield is pretty great too, although your AC will be very high at this point, but it can be a nice win more type of ability. And our concentration slot is quite contested with haste, hold person and such, but if you think you can weave in another concentration spell, then definitely get Confusion, as it's awesome CC that can on its own also dictate a battle easily. For our feat then we grab Savage Attacker. At this point we have a lot of instances of hits where a damage die is being rolled, so a Savage Attacker gets more and more value and will be a very nice increase to our damage output. That's also why we took the ability improvement first to get all the other benefits ASAP, and now it's Savage Attacker's turn to shine. I didn't grab Misty Step here by the way because we can get it quite early on in the Underdark by defeating Nier, which gives us the disintegrating Night Walkers, and you're pretty much just going to use this for your entire playthrough. Being able to travel through difficult terrain, whether it's your enemies or your own with say Ice Storm, and not falling over when walking over ice is amazing, and then we get Misty Step on top of that too. Now I also want to mention Scorching Ray. I took this by inscribing it from a scroll, saving me a slot for learning spells, so I took something else there. But if you can't find a scroll for Scorching Ray, you can also just learn it while leveling because you get enough options. As you saw, we have a lot of flexibility there. So let's do then a recap of our gear here, because if you followed it step by step, you will now be fully decked out with a lot of pieces being able to be obtained as early as say level 3. Okay, so the recap goes as following: Disintegrating Night Walkers for our boots, Bracers of Defense for our hands, Blood Guzzler's Garb for our armor piece, the Diadem of Arcane Synergy for our headpiece, the Priapt of Wound Closure for our amulet, Caustic Band and Crusher's Rings for our rings, Bow of Awareness for our bow, and then dual wielding Shadow Blade in the main hand with either a Hunter's Dagger or Speedy Reply in our offhand based on what I said earlier. And all of this greatness as early as Act 1. It is fantastic. When you get to the end of Act 1 and almost into Act 2, you can then replace your offhand weapon with the Knife of the Undermountain King. The advantage on obscure targets is very relevant for Act 2. And even more important is also that it's a nice damage increase due to the easier crits and rerolls of 2s and 1s on your damage die, and that last one can be very substantial. So replace the Hunter's Dagger here or the Speedy Reply with the Knife of the Undermountain King right as you enter Act 2. In Act 2 then, you can also definitely destroy all of it with this gear setup as well, and just everything we took while leveling. And honestly, you can just stay like this, don't have to worry too much about the gear in Act 2, but we have some upgrades available nonetheless. First of all, we can fill in the blank spot right here and actually get a cloak right away. We grab the Cloak of Protection from the trader at the Last Light Inn for the sustain for that purpose. Then we grab the Gloves of the Battle Mace Power after reaching level 7 or 8 or so to replace the Bracers of Defense, as we now have plenty of AC from other sources as well. The Gloves of Battle Mace Power finally work properly, meaning we can get Arcane Acuity stacks quite quickly with this, which increases your spell save DC, which basically explained in layman terms means every time you cast a spell, you now have a higher likelihood in actually making it succeed rather than the enemy saving themselves from it. You can imagine this is really powerful with say when we use Hold Person and have a guarantee to pretty much get it off. And with how many times we can attack in a turn, we can quickly get to the max number of stacks here, which is 10 stacks of Arcane Acuity. So absolutely amazing gloves here. At this point in time, you can also replace the Crusher's Ring with the Strange Conduit Ring for a bit more psychic damage for the next piece that I'm going to mention in a second, as well as us being now able to generally keep our concentration better. The Strange Conduit Ring is still obtained in Act 1, but I would start using it in Act 2. Now this one is not a gear piece, but an item you just place in your inventory and get all its benefits, and it will make you deal disgusting damage, as it will double all of our psychic damage, and it's the Resonant Stone. This one is picked up all the way at the end of Act 2, however, so definitely not early game anymore, but it's still Act 2 and we're covering Act 2 as well, so you know, might as well just name it. You definitely want to get it. It doesn't take a gear slot and makes everything vulnerable against your shadow psychic damage. It does, however, make yourself also vulnerable, but from my experience, it doesn't really matter. Your sustain and defenses are going to be great nonetheless. So the damage you're seeing now being displayed on on screen, you're going to see it over and over, and it will provide you a nice little start and a great entry through Act 3. With that then, we have all the gear covered for Act 1 and 2, and leveling, and now it's time to talk about combat strategy a little bit more. So with extra attack in our kit, we can use Booming Blade to get the extra attack off and proc it, and then using our regular main hand attack to continue the damage. See, our Shadow Blade here also properly scales as well with level, but it's only for every odd level, essentially capping at a level 5 spell slot. So upcasted with a level 3 spell slot for higher damage, but never with a level 4 spell slot. And finally, for the highest tier Shadow Blade, upcasted with a level 5 spell slot, but never with a level 6 spell slot. This is obviously the best from a spell slot efficiency economy perspective. And Shadow Blade hits very hard. It's a lot of damage compared to how early you can get it. It's psychic damage, and it stays always relevant due to the just mentioned upscaling. And there will be targets that will be immune to psychic damage, but those are really no problem, as we have a kit full of spells to destroy with in addition to our weapon. We have Fireball, Ice Storm, Lightning Bolt, Cloud of Daggers for great AoE purposes, with the sub-context being that the type of damage we want to use, and then Magic Missiles and Scorching Ray for amazing single target damage in the form of a spell, with ultimately you also having the possibility to also haste for even more actions, and with Hold Person you can crit over and over while controlling your enemies, destroy everything, and even switch up mid-term from melee attacking to using spells if, for example, the final target is not in range. And keep in mind, Hold Person works with spells as well, so say you can't reach the target anymore but you're still in the Hold Person radius, then you can Scorching Ray them and get a crit for every single beam. Yeah. There's a lot of options here. And then with Misty Step, we have excellent coverage of the entire battlefield, and with our movement and flexibility of a hybrid type of build like this, we can go from target to target, annihilate one by one, and always have options. And Insane Sustain, by the way, with up towards 40 AC through Mage Armor, Mirror Image, Shield, Bladesinging, and all kinds of pickups, and great battle control through Counterspell and any other CC you want, because you're still Wizard, Harry. That means you can inscribe any spell in the game. Yeah, that's another benefit that I didn't even mention yet really, but it's a huge benefit, and even more maybe as a character that also likes to melee attack, as the options you ultimately have then is pretty much infinite, kind of. And you also get the ability to recover spell slots through your arcane recovery. And then finally, with your Blade Song Climax, you can heal and do disgusting AoE damage, and you can do both of those things at the same time. So summarized, yeah, you're going to destroy everything, and I probably even forgot to mention stuff with the breadth of options that you have, even mentioning all of that, but you will definitely notice those yourself if you try out my build here. I will be making a part 2 continuing at level 9 into the end game, as in the end game we get a lot of different gear options, and it's also usually a very different experience compared to the early game. So it's kind of fitting to do it in 2 different videos, and people like to see the early game shenanigans anyways, hence why I made this video. In the continuation of this video we will also go into the nitty gritty and specialize, considering also multi-classing, as there are a lot of cool options you can do with Bladesinging. But until that time, you have all the knowledge to absolutely destroy Act 1, Act 2, and get yourself a amazing Bladesinger. To not miss out on that video, however, make sure to subscribe right now, like the video, check out my Patreon, do all that stuff, you know, and enjoy your Bladesinger.